Welcome back, WNST, Tassel, Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive. We are positively into another March Madness. We skipped the one last year, and it's been about a year since I've had this guy on. He is a legend over at Loyola, and the Greyhounds almost had a little legend last week themselves. One of Chris Pike's favorite people. He is a returning champion here. Even though he hails from Loyola and hails from here in Maryland, he's stuck just like Springsteen, somewhere in the swamps of Jersey. I'm calling Rutgers games and talking basketball. Basketball's been your life, Joe Boylan. What's going on, man? How you been?
Well, it's been great, right, Nestor. I think great to see you again, and congratulations for surviving in this world that we live in now. Your energy and enthusiasm, helps everybody. It comes through the speaker, and people feel good. So that's a good thing. So you're contributing to society in these dangerous and times. Things are good. Yeah, things are good here.
How was your year? I mean, I went back and I looked at my calendar. I had you on the show on March 11th of last year.
Right.
We were talking about the Big Ten tournament. You and my dear friend Dick Girardi, two lifer friends, both call games for Rutgers and Penn State. I grabbed you guys. I think I had Chris Nockey on. We were getting ready for the Big Ten tournament, right? And then things happened. I haven't spoken to you in a year. How was your year? Give me life being 80 plus in New Jersey, Joe.
Yeah, well, you go back to that day, actually. We were in Indianapolis getting ready for the tournament, getting ready to play Michigan. So the night before, we go out and we actually see, I think Indiana played in the play-in game. And we're walking back, and we're beginning to hear this. And I said to the guy I work with, Jerry Recco, who's probably, I think, the best play-by-play, except for Johnny Holiday, of course, guy in the country. I said, I'm not so sure we're going to play. He said, we're going to play. So we go over, and speaking of Girardi, Penn State's practicing right before us. So I go in and I talk to them, and they leave. We're on the court. We warm up. 14 minutes on the clock. And I keep saying to Jerry, I don't think we're going to play. He says, we're going to play. A guy walks in and says, you're done. And we look and say, you're done? Yeah. Everything's canceled. Okay. He said, now you got to get out of here in 5 minutes. I said, okay. And we were lucky, Nestor. We got out, and the guy who does our travel, as soon as he heard about it, we had 25 cheerleaders and 25 band members with us. So our head coach, Steve Peichel, who's a great guy, he said, I don't want to have those 50 kids in Indianapolis overnight. So we got out. I was back home in Cape May Courthouse by 9 o'clock that night. And but it was surreal. It was just surreal. Because
especially for the kids, right? I mean, I know how much energy there was. And in talking to Dick specifically, you know how bad Penn State's program's been forever. They were a good team last year. Maryland was a potential Final Four team last year. For those kids, and, forget the old guy broadcasters and the athletic directors and whatever, but, I can't imagine getting back on a plane and thinking like it's not going to happen. It's never going to happen. In the case of the Marylands, the Styxes went off to drafts and it would never be the same again, right? So a year later, give me a year in the life of yourself and just personally living up there in Jersey and trying to stay safe. I mean, we all have family and loved ones. I mean, it's literally been a year, Joe. It feels like a minute, you and I.
Yeah, it has been. And that's the thing. I think you can't get back that year. I think the NCAA, for all its faults, I think the idea of giving every player an extra year no matter what, they're trying. Hey, we know something was taken away from you outside of our control. It's a pandemic. We're going to try and, give everybody an extra year if you want to use it. I think that's the right thing to do. There's no question about it. I think it creates a lot of problems, but if we're looking for the benefit of the student athletes, I think it's the right thing to do. So, it's been an interesting year because I have a grandson who was at Richmond for 2 years and then transferred to Fairfield, and he had COVID, and he was not approved to play until halfway through the season. He was one of only like 8 or 9 players left. So I saw that aspect of it. And
is there a part of you with shocked that they got games in? I mean, like college football, and you haven't been with me in a year, and I've referenced this for all my listeners, but I know you know who Eddie Feigner is.
Yes,
and
sure.
Back in the summer of last year, I said, This baseball season is like an Eddie Feiner special. It feels like a tournament, like a
Right.
like a barnstorm. Like it doesn't count. Like it's not real, right? And I've been using that phrase for a year. All due respect to Eddie Feiner, who pitched down at Stemmer's Run one time through some softball. I thought the college football season was a Harlem Globetrotters, Washington Generals special. You know, the basketball season, I have not watched a lot of basketball this year. It does not appeal to me to sit and watch kids dribble in emptiness. The empty part of sports has really, as you know, I've moved to Baltimore Positive. I mean, I don't call my operation a sports operation after 30 years because I just, over the last year, I don't want to see baseball games in empty stadiums. I watched the NFL. I mean, I think everybody did. But the rest of this, whether it's the NBA, whether it's golf, whether it's it's all become so fractured. Now that they're trying to put Humpty Dumpty back together again, college basketball this weekend, and I've said this all week, I'm like, this might be the first sort of kind of normal thing in a year, watching tons of basketball games at the same time with the one and out. You know, it's a real tournament. It's on TV. I'll even figure out where True TV is this week, like I do every year, Joe.
Good luck.
That this maybe opens that promise of a real Masters, a real Preakness, a real Derby, a real baseball season with real fans, that this may be a year in blink, and this might be the weekend we start to feel normal again with March Madness on. This is the first normal thing, other than the NFL on Sundays and the Super Bowl. None of sports has felt normal in a year.
I agree with you. I think you're absolutely correct. And this is to me, the most important thing, as I said, my grandson had COVID. He got through that all right.
Doing all right? No hospitalization, nothing weird?
No, nothing weird. But he was he was at Fairfield, and they put him in a hotel, a 50s hotel. He said, yeah, they gave me 2 20-pound weights and a basketball and told me not to go outside my room, and they'll deliver the food to you. And I couldn't open the window.
14 days.
You talk about how it affects people. And I just think since they're going to let people in the stands, it'll be more realistic. I think, they're going to get up to 8,000 now, I think, out in Indianapolis. But they've done a great job out there. They really have. I think it's an opportunity for these players. I felt bad for any team then last year. But the most important thing at the end of the day is safety. You don't want anybody to die because you're playing a sport. I don't care what. Some people may disagree with that, but to me, that's the most important thing: is the safety of the players and the people around them. And I think I know the Big Ten has really done a good job. Coach Peichel just called me this morning. He wanted to see if I was walking on the beach, which I do a lot. I said, no, not yet, Steve. But he said they are really locked down. I mean, they can't go anywhere. They can't go. They finally got the team on a bus and took them out to Indianapolis Speedway. But other than that, they're in their rooms. The food is delivered, and they're being tested the next 2 days to make sure they can get in the tournament. So they're doing everything they can there from the safety aspect. And his wife and daughter and son are flying out to the games. But he's not even supposed to see them. I mean, that's the kind of protocol they have to try and get through this tournament.
Well, in the NFL, they call it Tier 1. If you're touching each other, you can't touch anybody else or be in the room. Joe Boylan is here, longtime Loyola athletic director, now walking the beaches and the swamps of Jersey as a semi-retired Rutgers colorman. Did you do games this year on TV, or did you skip this year?
No, we did them. We did them in person for a while. And then the last month or so, I was sick for a week, and then I missed a couple games. But the last game we did live we went to Minnesota, actually, and that, you talk about a town that's under siege. I mean, it's talk about the real world intruding on basketball. You drive around that town and see it's all boarded up and everything, waiting for that trial. But no. We did a lot of, and we do games from the football stadium now off of television. That's what we're doing. We're not traveling at all. So, but for Rutgers, they had a great year. They're back in the tournament for the first time in 30 years. So it's an exciting time. They got a great coach, Steve Peichel, who is kind of a throwback, Nestor. He does it the right way. He really, they've left him alone for 5 years. He's built the program the right way. He's got through some challenging times with players.
That's always been a challenge at Rutgers, though, right? I mean, building a basket, you talk about first time in 30 years. I mean, it's monumental having this happen, even in the middle of a plague, right?
Yeah, it is. I mean, and that's what last year, they were were poised to go back, but he's been able. I mean, he started off, they were in the top 10 in the country. They were 7-1. They played really well. They're not playing quite at that level now, but they still, they had a good year. They were 10-10 in the Big Ten, and they beat Maryland at Maryland, and Maryland came down and beat Rutgers in a very good game at Rutgers late in the year, so he's done a really good job, and the future is bright. They built a whole new practice facility, which opened a year ago. So they finally invested some money in basketball, and so I think they're seeing the result of that. And it's not easy. I think it's not easy anywhere. There's no question about it. The Big Ten is when you go around and see those facilities, and you've been around, you know that, and I think that Mark's done a nice job at Maryland. You had that good streak going, and then all of a sudden they stumbled for a while. But that's going to happen in that league. It's just I mean, I look at Michigan State. I mean, they really struggled in the middle of the year, and then they got it together at the end. So,
well, Joe, all these years later, we bitched about leaving the ACC to go to the Big Ten. Boy, the Big Ten smells good, right? I mean, as a conference, for money, I don't know about getting on a plane and flying to Nebraska and Minnesota and Northwestern in the middle of the night, that in the middle of winter. But now that we're way into this, and I believe this from the beginning, but this year the Big Ten was the best conference. There's no doubt about that.
Well, you got two number one seeds. I mean, you've got Michigan and you've got, Illinois, and Iowa's very good. I mean, they're very good. If they shoot the ball well, they can beat anybody. They really can. And
why is the Big Ten emerged? Why is the basketball better all of a sudden?
I think they've invested. I mean, because when you go on these campuses, you see the facilities. Like Minnesota just built a new practice facility. And this is Minnesota. You go to Nebraska. Now their arena is downtown, but basically it's the Nebraska basketball arena, and it is as nice as any arena in America. I mean, it really is.
Don Marcus tells me that's the trip to take. He's like, don't sleep on going to Lincoln for a basketball game. I'm like, what? Why would I? If I'm going to Nebraska, it's for football. It's not for basketball. Don's like, no. You want to go to a basketball game in Nebraska? And I'm like, okay. I mean, I trust people like Don that have been everywhere and seen it.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I like to go for a weekend of football and basketball in Nebraska, to be honest with you. I mean, Lincoln, you got Omaha there. You got Creighton right down the street too. That's the other thing. So it's, but those facilities are very, very good, I think, and they've invested in it.
Invested their football money in basketball is what you're saying, sort of.
Well, I don't know how much money they have in football, but
they're all football schools. First of all,
they are. I think the idea that you can be successful in basketball without the massive cost of football probably has intrigued them. And
that's what you said at Loyola.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's right. I think you can. I think that's probably part of it. I mean, even Northwestern, you go back 2 years ago, they finally got to the tournament. But their investment, I mean, they didn't tear down their building, but they renovated their building, and it's great. I mean, it really is. And then they've got a practice facility right across the street. They didn't have that a couple of years ago. So even the smallest school in the conference has done that. They've invested in really good facilities, and they spend a fortune on coaches. I mean, Archie Miller, they just let go at Indiana, and they're paying him $10.5 million to let him go in this pandemic. Now, they got somebody to pay that, but still, I mean, that tells you what they think about basketball.
Is Tom Crean available? Oh, I'm sorry. Just checking back on that.
I think he's down in Georgia.
Yeah, I think John Harbaugh's brother-in-law would take care of that. Joe Boylan is our guest. He's a longtime Loyola AD. Anybody from Baltimore knows Joe. Joe's up in New Jersey. He has escaped doing all things Rutgers and watching March Madness. I meant to ask you this from the beginning, which was, how many years were you at Loyola? 35, 40, a long time, right?
I got the job in 1991, and I left in 2010.
Oh, so it was only 20 years. All right. It feels like you were there longer.
It was 20 marvelous years. I was very lucky to work with some incredible people, some incredible coaches, great administrators, very supportive, from Father Sellinger to Father Ridley to Father Linane, who's the current president. I mean, I worked for 3 really, really good Jesuit presidents. And when you work at a Jesuit school, if your presidents aren't good, it can be a challenge. But I was very fortunate. Sellinger was a legend who built the school. Father Ridley came in and kept it up, and then Father Linane's done a great job during this pandemic. So I just feel very blessed. And I got
basketball team did a nice job last week, right? I mean, beat
Yeah,
Army and
great.
Navy. I mean, that's something a lot of countries around the world would like to do is beat Army and Navy the same week, right?
Yeah, it's been a long time since we've lost Army and Navy. I think probably the War of 1812. We had some struggles there, but we managed to. Yeah, they've done a nice job there. Donna is the AD there has done a good job, and again they've supported the program, and our lacrosse programs are good. With Charlie Toomey, won a national title in 2012. And Jen Adams is probably as good a women's lacrosse coach as there is in the country. So, Loyola was great for me. It was great for my family. My daughter actually came down from Rutgers, went to school there, coached the cheerleaders, met her husband there, and got married in the chapel. So, I've got a lot of wonderful memories. And Baltimore, I grew up in Baltimore from the 40s and, 50s and 60s. And, it's a great town. It's got challenges now. There's no question about it. But hopefully they'll get through them.
Well, for you at Loyola, if they would have come to you in any of these years with a pandemic, I mean, I would think of all the things on your mind as a manager of people, budgets, students, all of that pandemic, probably you're happy you're not in that chair, right? And I'm sure it was something you probably never considered. I know at various points there were illnesses and sicknesses and, flu bugs and chicken pox and all those kinds of things that go through sports teams and through athletes and through college campuses, but a pandemic, for all of these athletic directors, for all these schools, for all the teachers and students, we're a year into this. I know it hasn't been perfect, but, by and large, we're still all here. Most of us are here and hopefully trying to get to the other side of this thing. I think basketball this weekend's a nice little spring awakening after a year.
I think you're right. I think it's almost normal. I think you still have to be careful. I mean, you got over, 520,000 people have passed away because of this, and it can be deadly, and you don't know. Did
you get your shot, Joe?
I got my first shot, yes. And my wife just got her second shot yesterday, and she's feeling okay. Not great, but not bad either. So we're happy there. And I think the country has reacted. I think there's going to be next vaccines for everybody, and everybody's going to be able to have them. And hopefully we'll get herd immunity. But still, you have to be careful. And I think. But basketball does. I think people will sit down at their television sets this weekend and says, "Oh, this is kind of like it used to be." I don't think it'll ever be the same. I think whether some things will change forever. There's no question about it. But for me, to be able to do those games this year and to see the joy of those players, just the fact that they were out there playing, going to practices in October, and those kids, just like in Maryland, a lot of those kids have been there since June or July. They haven't been anywhere. They haven't been able to go out. And, I really admire them because if you're an 18 to 22-year-old kid, to be locked down is really, really hard. But I think a lot of them, people say, well, they're getting a scholarship and everything else, but they've made the right sacrifice. And it's a good life lesson too, I think, going forward, that things sometimes aren't great in life, and you have to handle it the best you can. So for me, I think it's a good story, and I think the NCAA. I mean, obviously they need the money, but they've created the perfect situation. And if you test, you're gone. And I mean, that's the thing.
Even if you're an official, as we found the other night.
Yeah, 6 officials are gone. Yeah, and I mean, and that's the other thing, that somehow those officials got through the years. Some of them, I don't know. We saw some same ones time after time after time. But again, just to put all this together was extraordinary. Rutgers is the only program with a football and basketball. There was no pause for either program, and so it's. I don't know. I think it's going to be a great tournament, to be honest with you.
Well, I think we have plenty of time on our hands, and all these kids that they've gone through to get here emotionally, to your point, the lockdown, the coaches, getting them there. I still have not been to Hinkle Fieldhouse. I feel like a fool for not going out there in Indianapolis. They offered us the chance to go see Butler because I've been to Indy so much with combines and whatnot.
Sure.
And I have not been to the Palestra yet either. Dick Girardi owes me a trip to the Palestra in Philly. And at some point, I'm going to get up there and put my feet on the sand in Stone Harbor, New Jersey. I've never been to Stone Harbor, New Jersey. Joe, make a case for me.
Yeah, well, it's just it's one of those small towns. It's Stone Harbor and Avalon. It's a 7-mile beach. Two towns fit together. And I first went there in 1960 to work on the beach, and ended up being captain of the lifeguards for 10 years. From
Baltimore guy going to the Jersey Shore. You didn't go to Ocean City.
Now, what happened was, I won't bore you with my story, but I was at Lafayette. That's where I went to college, and my roommate was going to this place called Stone Harbor, who I'd never heard of. And I went down, and I met the guy who was head of the beach patrol, and he said, "You should come down here." And so I did, and I liked it. It's just
60 years ago, you found Stone Harbor, huh?
Yep. And I met my wife here, got married. We had the reception a block off the beach in Avalon, at her parents' rental house, and so there are a lot of good memories here. And
so it's your second home. It's your home now.
It's my home now. Yeah.
Well, I got Baltimore looking good over my shoulder. I think you can see that, Joe. The Baltimore looks good.
I love Baltimore. I go back. I still have my doctors in Baltimore, and I go by Loyola. And
I run into you in delis in Baltimore and Pikesville. I think I ran into you somewhere here.
Yeah, there, and also in Bel Air, where I saw you. I think what's the name of the place? I always stop there.
Crazy. I don't get out all that much, and I keep running into you.
I know. I think I was getting a crab cake, and you were in there. Yeah.
Well, and you were probably getting a pretty good crab cake. That's something we should do this summer. Joe, I appreciate you making time. I know you were a little under the weather a couple weeks ago when I first tracked it down. It's always great to visit with you. It's even better to see you in the era of Zoom. In the old days, we had to do radio. So I could see your hair's getting long. My hair's getting long again, like a hippie here. So good luck to Rutgers, and I hope that when you get down here for your doctor's appointments and whatnot, you're not a stranger and you say hello, all right?
I will. And hey, listen, we both still have hair, Nestor. That's a good thing.
The people bitching about our hair being longer is the people don't have it. I've learned
That's exactly right. Hey, congratulations on what you've done. I mean, my God, for you to survive it in this for all these years is just extraordinary.
Well, we're still surviving, and this is due to great sponsors. Like Wise Markets just came on with an annual sponsorship for us. We like to call these – we call them intelligent conversations according to the shirt. We're now calling them wise conversations. So I appreciate you having a wise conversation with me. In order to have a wise conversation, you need to have people with wisdom, and that's you.
Well, I don't know. Nobody said that for a long time, Nestor, but I'll take that. That'll keep me going for a long time.
Take all compliments at your ripe age of 82 or whatever you are at this point. Joe, take care of yourself. It's great visiting with you, okay?
Okay, Nestor. Take care.
Good luck to Rutgers. There he goes. Joe Boylan, long time. I thought he was at Loyola like 30 or 40 years. It turns out it was only 20. I guess time got ahead of me. He was the only guy I knew at Loyola all those years. This is my 30th year on radio. Always great to visit with the great voices of college basketball from this area that have moved on to other places, including my friend Dick Girardi. We'll try to grab him at some point, probably talk some ponies with him and cheesesteaks as well. I am Nestor. You can find me anywhere the internet travels, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat. I'm usually sitting over the Inner Harbor here. And you can always find me at WNST.net and BaltimorePositive.com.